Trainer, teacher, author of international title on CSR from IGI Global, storyteller, and a Lucknowite. Talking about his education, he is an MPhil and PhD scholar. Currently, he is in collaboration with many universities and colleges in India as well as abroad. Along with that, he researches and designs heritage walks, curates tours, and keeps the curious child and students alive within. I request Syed sir to proceed in this session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Geetika, for that thoughtfulness. I never knew I had so many qualities riding on my shoulder. Thank you so very much. That was a very long introduction. In brief, I am Syed Ahmad Rizwan. When people love me, they call me Rizwan, Riz, Syed Ahmad Rizwan. When they hate me, they call me Dr. Rizwan or Rizwan sir. So after the session, I'll see what you'd like to call me as and where. It's lovely. Can I speak both the languages, Geetika? Are people comfortable with Hindi as well as English? Okay. Or yes, if we have an English-speaking audience, I can have my examples only in English.
Okay.
So I'm asking you, Geetika, do we have like a bilingual crowd or do we have only English-speaking crowd?
You can speak in both the languages. We are comfortable with everything.
Thank you so much. So Jai Hind, everyone. Before I start, Adab, because as my CV says that I'm from Lucknow. Assalamu alaikum, Shashrekal, and a very, very good morning at my place and probably a good afternoon at your place. So this is what we'll be talking about, the dynamics of culture and how does it changes when it comes to tourism and what, because theoretically you have read so many definitions of culture per se. But when I talk about culture today, in today's sense, it would be very different. And believe me, you'll take something to carry for all your life. There's a couplet which we often use in Lucknow, which reminds me, and I would like to share it with you. Of course, I'll let you first the couplet go and then I'll interpret it for you, because being an interpreter, we have been used to this kind of interactions. So, चमन में इख्तिलाफ़े बू से बात बनती है, चमन में इख्तिलाफ़े बू से बात बनती है. Chaman is the garden, ikhtilaf is like the conflict. Boo is, of course, the smells. So a garden has a smell. So it's saying that in a garden, the conflict of smells bring out the colors. चमन में इख्तिलाफ़े बू से बात बनती है, अगर तुमी तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो, अगर हमी हम हैं तो क्या हम हैं. So it's like all about how you adjust, how you imbibe, how you move ahead and assimilate everything. There where lies the beauty. Today, I welcome you all on this my session on intercultural communication from a tourist perspective, how he sees the different colors and myriads, और कितने सारे सतरंगी इंद्रधनुष और रंग वो देखता है जब वो move out करता है. तो अगर culture की definition ले, आपकी किताबी लहजे से, culture is a group which shapes a person's values and identities. So culture के दो aspect हैं, एक outer shell और एक inner shell. इसको हम बहुत जल्दी में अगर आपको समझाने की कोशिश करें तो it's like two fruits. बाहर का shell जो कि outer aspect of culture को दिखाता है और एक inner core जो values को hold on करके रखता है. So there can be cultural identities which can stem from the differences which we celebrate, the race, the ethnicity, the gender, the class, the religion, the country of origin and geographic region. When I say race, an Asian would be very different from an American. For example, an Asian would wait to be invited second time for the meal. So if an Asian asks you, it's always considered very decent to politely say no, and yet from inside wait that you will get a second offer or option of eating. Whereas when an American does the same, it's very clear. Either you say yes or you say no. And your one yes or no would decide. So whenever you're moving with an American tourist, make sure if he offers you food. So if you have to have it, say yes for the first time. If you don't want to have it, say no at the first go. So it's like what we call in Rajasthan when we move across our country, our boundaries, Manuhar. So Manuhar is like pampering someone, saying, no, no, please have it, and you refuse. And second time it's offered to you. Like in Lucknow, we call it takalluf, where you again are offered something and taken back. Then there comes the ethnicity, the gender, the male and the female perspective of things are more important. In our culture, it is assumed that the men are not allowed to cry and women can show and shed tears, which is an accepted fact. Not saying that who is stronger or weaker. I think both are equal. Then coming to the class, every class will have a different reaction, because we often say, reading one of the books, The Great Indian Middle Class, where we see that the middle class has been tied by too many constraints and conflicts and trying to maintain the status quo. Whereas as we move upper in the hierarchy of the class system, we find that there is more freedom. And in the lower class, we find more freedom existing in terms of expressions. Again, whenever I assume a Christian bride, I assume it her wearing a white color gown, wearing flowers, and bridesmaids walking along with her, and a church-like environment. Similarly, when I see a Hindu bride, I imagine a red sari with a lot of jewelry, with a sindoor, with a kumkum, with different kind of sola singhars that she carry across. Then country of origin will also differentiate. As soon as, forget about country, as soon as someone uses the greetings, we are able to decide, despite he may not belong to that place. As soon as I say adab, I'm tagged as a Lucknowite. As soon as I say Gari Khamba, I am a Jaipuri. As soon as I say Shashre Kal, I'm a Punjabi, core at heart. So it depends on that, and of course the geographic region that you come from. But today, I will say culture is much beyond than all this. It is what you observe, how you assimilate it, how you try to adjust the kind of learning you have been into, and how you dewire your brain setting is what culture is all about. I had this experience. Believe me, I was a cough potato since my early age. And then later, all of a sudden, my pushing from the family and seeing my friends move around, I realized that the world is a lovely place to discover. And in that enthusiasm today, I'm very proud that I took these small stints at various places and learned as much about culture and places as I can. So my definition of culture is nothing but the lens through which you view the world. I think one of the best answers that we can get is when we go to our childhood. We used to have these different kind of specs to play around, which had sometimes red color, sometimes green color, sometimes yellow color, and we used to don it. And whichever color of the lens was, we saw the world colored in that. So it is basically, it is central to what you see, how you make sense of what you see, how you express yourself and give an expression. Culture is the arts elevated to a set of beliefs. That's what culture is. Now, I will take one of the examples from Punjab. I was working at the Punjab University, and I had this lovely linguistic department where there was a researcher from outside. He invited me for a cup of coffee at his department and said, Rizwan, can you report tomorrow at 10 o'clock? I said, yes. Then he said, 10 o'clock my time or your time? I laughed. I said, IST. So again, he said, Indian stretchable time or Indian standard time? I say Indian standard time, but it had a pinch in me because I wanted to confront. I'll talk about this, that when we meet cultures, we have 3 C's. But before that, let me complete my incident that I'm talking about. So I said, I'll be meeting at Indian standard time. Next day, we had our share of greetings. Of course, he was a North European, so the physical distance was much higher. I was an Asian behaving like a South American. So it was like I was getting close to him and he was running a little far off. And I was getting, because the sense of physical proximity is also different in a different kind of atmosphere. You meet someone from South America, maybe it's not surprising that he or she may come and just hug you for the very first time he or she sees you, which I'll never expect with a North European to do that at all, because there would be a very formal and a longer distance sense of a space. So after a while, I could see in his room, because he had a big room which had been given to him. So there was a sort of a dance happening. He was shifting 2 steps back and I was shifting 2 steps in front. He was shifting 2 steps back and I was shifting 2 steps in front. So there was a kind of dance happening in between. Eventually, when we settled down, we shook hands, and then I said, friend, everything okay, but what was the joke about IST? Then he said, don't take it very personal, Rizwan. You come from tourism and you have more open boundaries. I believe it lies with the geography of your place. In Europe, the place where I come from, we have just one season where we can sow the seeds, खेती कर सकते हैं, हम फसलें उगा सकते हैं, क्योंकि सूरज एक वक्त, मुकर्रर वक्त पे निकलता है, और ये जो गर्मी है, फसल का सीजन है, वो सिर्फ एक वक्त के लिए रहता है. तो हमारे पास कोई चॉइस नहीं है अलर्ट होने के सिवा. You have been bestowed, or rather been lucky enough, you have been born in a country जहां 3 फसलें बड़ी आसानी से पैदा कर लेते हो तुम. सूरज देवता हमेशा तुम पे मेहरबान रहते हैं. So that's how you guys, importance of time is a little less in counts, because if you miss one season, you have a second season to depend upon. You miss second season, you have a third season to depend upon. You will not die of hunger. Whereas in our case, we don't have that option, and that's from where that come from. And then this diagram, that is what I developed in terms of culture, that there would be visible cultural differences, but there will be invisible cultural root. So I was seeing the time as a visible cultural difference, but the invisible cultural root was the geography of the place. So that's how this overall came into. Being at Lucknow and being a self-learner, it was very starting since I started my heritage walks. So there was very few people to guide, and rather I had to depend on people from outside India for all the information and for all the learnings. And sometimes that time net was also not as popular. It was very expensive in terms of a student who has just moved out of the university to afford internet. So all the learning was more of practical. So I still remember my first Japanese guest who came to Lucknow to do my heritage walk. And it's a lovely story. I'll share it with you. When he came, his name I still remember. He was the ambassador to India, His Excellency Minoru Kukuchi. And I had to meet him at a certain point. Lucknow has this very famous old city known as Gol Darwaza. So I had to stand at the Gol Darwaza, and I was waiting for him. And after a while, I could see him coming. And I was, because one of my first assignments, I was very alert and very excited at both at the same time. And that gives you a deadly combination to let yourself sometime go loose or become too stubborn. So that was there. So as soon as he came, he was coming, and all of a sudden, after maintaining a certain smooth distance, he bent. And then I had exclusively no idea except to reciprocate, because that I was told that if Rizwan, you don't know what to do, always reciprocate. So I also bent down. And then again he bent down. And then again I bent down. And then again he bent down. And then again I bent down. दूर से देखने में लग रहा था कि 2 मुर्गे आपस में खाना खा रहे हैं. 2 roosters having their feet together. And this continued for a good 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And उसके बाद मेरी कमर सिर्फ इस लायक रह गई थी कि मैं मूव का एडवर्टाइजमेंट कर पाऊं और कुछ नहीं. And I stopped. And as soon as I stopped, he also stopped. So there came my learning that I had to stop first, and then he would stop. It was very normal. We could have stopped at second or third go, or he could have told me. So, but that's a cultural difference that he had. So this is one of the examples that I shared with you. Now, when I was talking about culture, there are 3 things that happens when you meet a new culture. The 3 things that I'm talking about are 3 C's. Either you confront a culture where you say that you are right. You consider yourself as right, the Johari window, I am okay and everyone else is not okay. You complain and you get into a social bubble where you find people from your own community, your own place, your own origin, your own ethnicity, your own race, and you try to build up a new environment in that greater universal set. Third is you conform, and this is one of the best stage friend, conforming. You adapt to the benefits, you observe, you learn, learn the behavior of culture, and try to imbibe and align it with your own societal beliefs, and consider that, okay, at my place, it happens like this, and at this place, it happens like that only. Coming back to a few of my Heritage Walks experiences, I still remember I had to pick up this lovely lady from Moldova, a place which I've never ever seen on the map itself, forget about listening about it. So I was all prepared in one of my best business suits, carrying a nice bouquet, standing at the airport, smiling, and this lady came up. Of course, as a courtesy, chivalrous, I opened the door of the car, asked her to have a seat, and she sat down. And then just to break that awkward silence, and not starting directly with Lucknow, because next day she had a city tour, I said, I have to talk. And as we Indians are, like, aapke bachche kitne hain? Aapke bhai behan kitne hain? So I started with, how many brothers and sisters you have? And believe me, after that, I've never asked this question from anyone. It's because of the answer that she gave me. She said, I have 2 brothers, real brothers, and then I have 1 real sister. Then I have 2 brothers from my mother's side and 2 sisters from my father's side. My God, believe me, that was an arithmetic, algebra, geometry, what it was. It was like an SSC paper where I was calculating Mary is the mother of John, and John is the cousin of Joseph, and Joseph is the son of Miranda. So what's the relation between Miranda and Mary? So it was like that. And I realized I don't have to ask this question ever again. Similarly, I remember another experience at the airport where I had Susie as a client. She came from New Zealand and I had to pick her up. And just to break this awkward silence again, I asked her, okay, how's your husband? Are you married, Miss Susie? And I could see she saw me from top to bottom with this stare looking at me. And of course, they know how to, unlike us Indians and Asians, they know how to curtail their emotions. But I could see that was not a very positive reaction. She saw me and she said, sorry, I don't want to marry you, even if you are the last man on earth. So getting that answer back, this question was also out of scenario, out of point, that, okay, I'll not ask this question also from anyone, that are you married or not? Because in India, this is the best, this we do. During one of our tours, I remember I went to Goa and I spent a long time, did my MPhil study also there. And again, that Indianness came inside. I was walking on this Anjuna beach, which is famous for all the wrong reasons. And I could see this very small child. He was hardly like walking on his, like both hands and feet on his quadruplets. And he was trying to walk across towards the waves. And probably the father in me, the Indian father in me, all of a sudden took jump up. And I rushed and I picked up the child from the water. And I could see a lady running, coming from one of the shacks who was busy enjoying her smoke. She came over and she said, how dare you touch my child? I said, I'm sorry, madam. I could see that he was going near to the water and I just wanted to help him out. She said, but how dare you touch him? You know, he's learning how to survive and you stopped him from doing that. I said, I'm very sorry, because as an Indian traveler, as an Indian tourist within the India, whenever I had to break the ice, the best part was taking out a cookie or a candy, offering it to the child, or just touching his cheek and saying, oh, you have a lovely child, and the mother melts all across. But here, instead of melting, mother was ready all to melt me across. So these are little cultural learnings that I got to know moving through my journey called life, and in the university called life. Okay, so I told you about the 3 C's, which is confront, complain, and confirm. And I I'm sanguine, and I hope and I pray that after we finish this session, we all fall into the third category of conforming and adapting to the behaviors, enjoying the diversity, the beautiful colors that God has bestowed in the human race and their behavior. So cultural conflicts arise because of the differences in values and norms of behavior of people from different cultures. A person acts according to the values and norms of his or her culture. Let me create a scenario. And the scenario is that maybe like a child achieves something in an Indian environment. Maybe he has the higher secondary results are about to be out. So let's imagine that the higher secondary results have come out and the child has scored one of the best scores possible. So what any one of you can come up and speak and tell me that what the scenario that you see in this. Anyone. May I ask Akanksha or Abhigyan or Aditya, Adnan, anyone can speak up. These are the, I'm not being partial with alphabets because it's an alphabetical list. So maybe like that's why I'm taking the name. So what do you see? This young Indian higher secondary boy gets an extraordinary grades and come back home. What would he do first? Am I audible? Am I touching live audiences? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mrinalini. Okay, and yeah, someone was speaking. What's the scenario you could see? Come up. I think some issue, either you guys are muted from the other side, no problem. I'll give you the benefit of doubt. I know I have some very lovely live audiences on the other side. I think the best thing he would do is like come and touch the feet of the parents. Maybe there's a temple inside the home or maybe a temple outside. He would go and try doing a matha taken or bow his head in front of the deity and take blessings of the God and his parents. Whereas in a Western culture, if we see a child may come back, pop out a champagne from the freezer, hit it and open it and say, hey, cheers, Dad. Today I've done it. It's all yours. So this is the difference of culture in both the societies, and both are equal. Both are like, it's a celebration. It's at the end of the day, it's celebration. We celebrate it with respect and they celebrate it with a different kind of achievement. Okay, so, but saying that this is correct or that is wrong or this should be done or that should be done is what is cultural biasness. And that's what we need to remove after this session. This is one of my takeaway, my objectives and my pampering. So this situation creates misunderstanding. Now let's come up with very small things. I have this again, one of the guests who came from the UK, and these UK people, they have a little upper stiff lip kind of behavior, or upper nose, what we call as. And I took him, I was taking him to this very old part, which was settled by the Britishers, known as Hazratganj. और हजरतगंज जाकर मैं इनको थोड़ा सा एक लेन है, लव लेन कहलाती है, उसको घुमा रहा था. और वहां पर एकदम से ही said, I need to powder my nose. So वहीं पर एक सोलोमन करके एक शॉप है जो कि एक फार्मासिस्ट हैं. मैं उनके यहाँ गया और मैंने उनसे एक जॉनसन बेबी पाउडर मांगा because I considered it to be the safest. I know now no longer it remains the safe after all the cases. But that time I thought this is the safest. I took the powder, a small powder box, and gave it to him. He said, thank you, and he kept it. After a while, another 10 minutes, he said, gentlemen, I need to powder my nose. I said, maybe he deserves a bigger box. So there was another shop, Sevakram and Sons, where I stopped again at the pharmacist. I bought a bigger box of Johnson powder, talcum powder, and I gave it to him saying, sir, you may powder your nose. And this continued another 15 minutes of walk. He said, gentlemen, and this time I could see an uneasiness. He said, gentlemen, I need to powder my nose. And I was like, I need to call up somewhere. And then I called up one of English professors and I asked her, madam, I have a client from England. and or either Scotland, and he's asking me to powder his nose, and I've given him a small packet and I've given him a bigger packet, a box, but yet he's not powdering, and every time he's saying I need to powder my nose. There was a loud laugh on the other side, and the professor told me, Rizwan, he needs to use the restroom. Search a washroom for him and take him there. That's what powdering of noses. You have given him the wrong product. You could have given him Huggies. That would have worked better than giving him Johnson powders. And I was like stunned. I took him to the one of the hotels which was on the way, the Kapoors, and I asked him, sir, you may powder your nose. And then he smiled and he went inside. And later I went to meet that English professor to say thank you to her. And I asked her, what's the origin of powdering the nose? Because nowhere the nose was involved in powdering it. So she laughed and she said, Rizwan, they had these theaters and they had these cinema halls initially. So between the cinema hall and the restroom, there used to be a small room where the smells were kept. And so that anyone who uses the restroom before coming back to the public area, before coming to the theater, is allowed to use a little smell so that it's more pleasant. And that's what powdering of nose was. So that was a point in learning, and that's how I learned a little about the eye contact also. So in most of the culture, it is believed if you maintain an eye contact, it indicates honesty, straightforwardness, and someone who is very honest. But in certain other cultures, it may be considered very rude staring at someone, because I remember this one of my tourists, she had a little one eye closed and one eye opened, and I couldn't notice it when I was doing my interpretation. But after a short while, when I was sitting at the restaurant and we were facing each other, for a quite long time, I thought the lady is winking. And I went to her and I said, oh, thank you, ma'am, but I'm already engaged. And she said, I'm sorry, but I have a problem with my left eye. And it's like it's semi-closed since birth. So I said, sorry. And then I realized that winking doesn't everywhere means that it's like someone is hitting on you or someone is proposing you or you are a man in shining armor. It's like it could be sometime as simple as someone is having a birth defect. So it could be like that only. So eye contact is like one of the first things that we do. In USA, I believe one of the most effective way of doing an eye contact, earning someone's respect is like to look into their eyes, create a bridge, and prove that you are honest. But in Arab world, where I am currently in, seeing too much someone, especially the opposite gender, is like not considered comfortable at all. So seeing too much is bad, and seeing too little is a kind of dishonesty that you're doing with the guest. Coming to the Arab culture, I have very interesting story to share, if you allow me to do so. I had this guest who came from Arab, and of course, this sheikh wearing this dasha in white and black color lovely suit, women all in black and men all in dish dashas. So I went, and already my client has told me that, Rizwan, you will not wish the women. You will only and only wish the male. So I learned it. I went ahead and I could see a train of women behind one man, around 4 of them, all clad in black from top to bottom. I said, Assalamu alaikum. And I knew the man's name. His name was Mr. Khalid. I said, Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Khalid. How are you? He said, Alhamdulillah, fine. Naam. I said, Syed Ahmad Rizwan. Then he said, Naam. I said, Syed Ahmad Rizwan. And again he said, Naam. I said, Syed Ahmad Rizwan. And he said, Naam. They are very respectful. So I had to quickly go at the side, call my operator at Delhi and ask him, see, you have sent this Arab client, and after like 3 times, he has asked my name, and I've told him now he's asking for the 4th time. He said, what is he saying? I said, I asked him, how are you? I'm fine, I'm Rizwan, your interpreter for the day. He's saying, Naam. And 3 बार नाम मैं अपना बता चुका, अगर 4थी बार बताया तो मेरा निकाह हो जाएगा इस बंदे से. My operator on the other side said, Rizwan, naam means okay. So you have told your time three times your name, and he has said okay every time. So it's okay. You can stop and say, finish it off. And I was in a shook bomb. And there only I learned, this gentleman was kind enough. Later, when we opened up after the Heritage Walk was over, he told me that good you never wished our ladies, even if you need to wish them, always take the name of the man who is following, like Khalid, mother of Khalid, Khalid's family, assalamu alaikum, or just say assalamu alaikum and see towards all and just give a glaring eye. So that was one learning which I took from my Arab group. So see how like naam in Hindi means name and naam in Arabic means okay. So I embarrassed myself to the best possible manner that I could. Moving further in the eye contact section only, the body language speaks. In English culture, again, a certain amount of eye contact is required, but too much makes many people very uncomfortable. So you have to be careful. Like I still remember, sometimes we Indians have a habit of saying, "Dikki mein rakh do." But for a foreigner, there's nothing like a dikki. Dikki is a bad word there. So it's like either you use the hood or the boot. Which side of the car you're talking about? Hood or the boot? That's how the international scenario and conversation and parlance becomes. Coming to Punjab is still, let's have some wonderful stories moving from the eye contact. Initially, when I went to Punjab, it was very early in my career and I've not moved out much till then. And my train was arriving and I was a little afraid and jittery because I had not spent much time with Sardars in Lucknow because we had only one Sardar in all the 4 sections of my college. So I didn't have much interaction with him. So I was a little skeptical. So I called one of my friends from Lucknow who was living at Chandigarh that please come and fetch me up from the station. And as usual, we Lucknowites are kharama, the slow moving we are. The train reached Ambala and I called him up. I said, within 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I should be at Chandigarh station. So I'm expecting you, bhai, come and pick me up. He said, oh, I was sleeping. I just woke up. Would you mind? 2 रास्ते हैं चंडीगढ़ पे जब आप उतरेंगे, एक पंचकुला की तरफ है और एक चंडीगढ़ सिटी की तरफ है. तो तुम पंचकुला की तरफ आ जाना और वहां से नीचे उतरकर ऑटो ले लेना. So and he gave me the directions कि कौन सा एरिया लेना है. स्मार्टफोन्स तब नहीं होते थे कि वो मुझे लोकेशन भेज दे और ओला उबर करके मैं पहुंच जाऊं. So I went out of the Panchkula and I was like puzzled actually, which side to move, which side to go ahead, which side to do. And like all of a sudden I saw this tall, humongous man like me wearing a big dastar and standing a policeman. And हमारे यूपी में generally, with all due respect, my father also is from the armed forces and the uniform services, so I can take that privilege. That यूपी में ज़्यादातर पुलिस जो सबसे ज़्यादा काम आती है वो रास्ता पूछने के काम आती है. So I took this privilege of going to this gentleman, the tall, handsome police wala of Punjab, whom I asked him. In Lucknow, we always have a way of saying it. I asked him, "Huzur, आपको एक तकलीफ दूँ?" And he saw me from top to bottom and he said, "Abhi dekh." And I had to just run with my feet and with my luggage somehow to manage myself, not having any tragedy on the first day itself of my coming to the great Punjab, a city which is a place which is very close to my heart now, and I love it and would love to spend some more time there. And then this friend, he lives near at sector 17, and I was asking everybody sector 17, 17, and people were not able to understand, and they were saying Satara. I said, I don't have to go to heavens. मुझे अभी जीना है, अभी सितारों में नहीं जाना. So later I found someone from UP and he stopped and he laughed and he said, आइए सर मेरी गाड़ी में आइए और आपको ये सतारा ही है, यहाँ 17 को सतारा कहते हैं. And that was another lingual change that I could see, and I reached Punjab. Punjab story is still not over. Let me tell you some more things about it. I had to take this. Chandigarh Punjab University is situated just opposite PGI, जहाँ से buses मिलती हैं. और एज अ लखनऊite हमारे लखनऊ में बूढ़ों को आगे चले जाने देना, उनको जगह देना is considered a mark of respect. So I had this in my mind. So anybody who was trying to come up on the bus, I always used to get up, offer my hand, pull them up. So this young man, probably from PGI, was coming and he tried to climb the bus. And I was inside the bus. So I offered my hand, but like he was a true Sardar and he felt that this is not right. He can do it on his own. So he had few papers in his hand. He said, "Phad do." And I took the papers and I tore them off. And there was an awkward silence in the bus. And he said, "Putter, ki kiya?" And I was like, "I've done something wrong." And the conductor was bursting into laughter. And he said, "Putter, phad do nahi." And I thought he said phad do, and maine phad ke pakda diya. And later I learned in Punjabi, phad do means pakad lo. Similarly, my landlady prepared certain pickles and she asked me to keep it in the sun and she said, "Chak do." And I took out a little bite and tasted it. And then she told me, "Kya kiya putter? Tune jutta kar diya. Ab sucha nahi raha." And I was like, "Madam, aap hi ne to kaha, chak do." She said, "Chak do is to keep it there in the sun, not chak do." So little Punjab element that happened with me. I'm sharing it with you. There only I learned, we all were having food and a fly all of a sudden, a bug rather, came and sat on the star of someone's this thing. Okay, like initially I used to call it paggad, and then I realized paggad is a disrespectful word. You don't call it paggad, it's pug or it's the star. So a bug came and sat on it, और मैं खाना खा रहा था, मुझे लगा उसको कहीं काट ना ले या कुछ कर ना दे, मैंने उसके सर पे से हटा. उसने फौरन हाथ से इशारा किया, "Stop," and he said, "थोड़े हाथ झुट्टे हैं." And then I realized this is not only a headgear, but it's a symbol and it's a mark of respect. So I can't use it. I have to first tell him that there is something on your dastar or pug, and if he allows me and my hands are clean, I'll remove it or I'll let it take its course, but I'll not intervene in between and do it. So a little learning of culture there. So moving further, in South Asian and many other cultures, direct eye contact is generally regarded as aggressive and very rude. So you have to be very careful in South Asian, this thing that you have to be very careful in South Asian considerations and talk about it, that you don't have to be very direct eye contact. You give a passing glance and then again you talk. You give a passing glance and again you talk. You give a passing glance and again you talk. So this is how we move ahead. Now, what creates this kind of fear factor? Like often when I used to go, and still when I have these people coming from new cultures, despite being exposed to so many of them over a variety of time, there is still butterflies in my tummy that I could say, ek gurgurahat hoti hai. Some other class, some other discussion, we will be talking about the brain that we have in our stomach, not only in our heads. So wo kyun ek butterflies in the tummy wala expression hai? Because communication के through हम uncertainty reduce करने की कोशिश करते हैं. But जब हम किसी गैर से, किसी अननोन से, किसी अनजान से कम्युनिकेशन की कोशिश करते हैं, तो जो अनसर्टेनिटी लेवल होता है वो बहुत हाई हो जाता है, और ये प्रिडिक्ट करना कि उस स्ट्रेंजर का रिस्पॉन्स क्या होगा बड़ा मुश्किल है. आई रिमेंबर I went to Thailand probably, or any of these Southeast Asian countries, and we had this lovely guide trying to explain everything, the minutest part of the monument, the design, the color, the dynasty, everything. And most of us were Asians. I had a friend who was from Europe, so he also had joined in with me. So we all were laughing, smiling, giving expressions as if we are understanding and enjoying it. And we were definitely of this, because the guide was very charming. But this gentleman, he was like, his face was like a smiley which shows a straight line. So definitely because of his culture from where he came from, he was understanding, he was a little bent in front, which proved itself that his body language showed interest. But this guide was seeing all of us, and then she was seeing her. She was seeing all of us and then seeing her. She was seeing all of us and then seeing her. So I could see there was a bit of discomfort existing between the guide and my European friend. So once the show was over, because I strike quite a nice chord with the guide, being in a similar profession of heritage walks, she took me at the side and she asked me to call my friend. And she literally held him and she shook him. She said, "Wasn't I good with you?" And I could only remind of the medicine bottles that we have written on it, "Shake well before use." So she wanted to take the expression out and she was shaking that man. So she said, no, you were pretty good. You were fine. You were excellent. And I was enjoying and imbibing. And I had to intervene and I had to explain to her that he comes from a totally opposite side of the world where showing off your expressions is not much of an in thing like the Asians we all do. So it's like, of course, you all are the internet boomers, the internet generation. For you, it's easier before you go to handle a certain kind of client to get and know, or if you're going to another place, it's better to read and ask to your friends on Insta and on Facebooks to ask them whether they are comfortable and like what kind of culture does that place has, and how would you react if someone says that. Okay, because again, coming between UP and Punjab, I could see that in our culture, whenever someone has to touch the feet, he has to literally give push to his back, touch the thumb or the fingers of my feet, take a little dust, and then put it on his head. Whereas in Punjab, it's just like you're picking up a dumbbell. It's peripona, peripona, peripona. And sometimes you don't even get up from your chair, someone enters and you just put your hand a little in front, bow down a little, and say peripuna, and that it goes. But in the UP, it would consider very rude, someone who is not even getting up and not trying to give a little pain to his back unless he or she has a slip disc to touch the feet and do it. So a stranger's response is one of the greatest hurdle in terms of it. So in case of an emergency, you exactly don't know how to react. The best way is to ask a person, what do you expect me to do? Like I remember taking one of my groups for a heritage walk, again in the labyrinths of chalk and Aminabad, and we have this ladder which was pasted across the wall. And all of a sudden, this first world group, they stopped and they started talking to each other. This awkward silence or this sudden stoppage of the tour told me there was something serious. And I stopped and I asked the group leader, I said, "Everything okay, sir? Can I be of any assistance? Or you need a break? You want me to stop at the side?" Of course, humbleness and politeness is one thing which is universal to cultures. So the group leader told me that passing under a ladder is considered to be a bad omen in our country. So would you mind that we wait until the ladder is removed? I said, "Don't worry. In our culture, we can go and get the ladder removed." So I went ahead and I requested the gentleman, "Can I hold the ladder straight so that my group can pass?" And later, the group leader was kind enough to tell me that it's just a precautionary measure which has been taken up by the society in this way to imbibe it in a better fashion, that if like a person is having a hammer or a nail or any tool in his hand and someone passes by and it falls from the top, there's a more chances of hitting the head or having an injury. So it's more of a safety precaution, but just to make it more universal, more practicable, more nice and more advent, we have engaged it into a social kind of norm. So just to make it more prevalent in the society. So I could get that. It's like similar, like when we see a cat crossing our way and kind of superstitions which we say now. We stop using the word superstition because people may take it otherwise. We say the belief system that we have in the society. One of my way of showing that how conforming to the culture is like better. Now, a few of the strategies that I would suggest is like you may passively observe the stranger. Always I do that whenever I go for my heritage walk. I just do not jump into the group. I try to stand a little away, farther away where they are not able to notice me, and I see the interactions between them, how they do it, and how they are doing it with the fellow people around. And then I get a lot of clues how to have to behave. Then you may see informations from your friends, your books, or internet, or you may directly ask the person who is there that how would you like me to behave? And if nothing else happened, put him in a similar situation. Sometime like drinking water. I was about to drink my water and I never knew how should I drink it. Should I take it in one gulp? Should I sip it slowly or the way we do it? So I just to know it, I said, oh, you know, one of the culture in the Oriental culture of Lucknow, the Muslim societies of Lucknow, when they drink water, they have to drink water in 3 sips. The first sip has to be small, the second one has to be bigger, and the last one has to be the biggest. And then before starting, we take the name of God, and after ending it, we thank God for the water that has been given. And then he said, oh no, in our culture, we have to sip it sip by sip, and it has to be very slow. You have to be very elegant while you're drinking water. And then I realized I don't have to gulp it the way I do it at home. So I took my water sip by sip. So this is like throwing a bait to catch a fish. So that you could do in this scenario. Okay, now languages to speak. One of the current observations that I have from many of my friends out here, they told me that most of you in Indian, especially from the south side, have a habit of shaking head like this. So even it's yes, it's like this, it's no, it's like this. So rather that in our culture, we have yes as this and no as this. So even if I'm saying yes, it will be difficult for you to believe that I'm saying yes. I've taken an example of just a small hand movement. A gesture like this is like something great, impeccable, wonderful, nice. If I raise it to my eye and I see it like this, it shows you that I'm observing you. And as soon as this gesture comes here, this means enough of your nonsense. Enough of your nonsense. So you could see the same gesture moving from here with the whistle, going to the eye and seeing, and later moving in the middle towards your chest could change. Same as namaskar. A namaskar over here is very welcoming. Whereas when I say namaskar, which goes above the head, Jai Ramji. Get lost, man, get lost. So that's how we do it. So I believe these are little body language, which is very important, and we need to keep talking about them and observing them, looking into them, and of course, giving them due importance. So, which is very, very good. Then moving further to my next discussion, which is again fingers crossed. We all remember during our childhood, we used to do this anti-bunty. Anyone who used to be dirty and we never wanted him or her to get close to us. अपने करीब नहीं आने देना चाहते थे और उसने अगर बॉल कहीं नाली से उठाई है या हाथ में कुछ गंदगी लगी हुई है, so we used to cross our fingers, don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. It's a sign of like purity and good luck. In Europe, it again brings the good luck and protection, but in Paraguay, it's an offensive gesture. So that is there. Then again, a simple okay is like in USA, it's okay. And I will tell you that this sign, I had again in a Chinese, when I finished my walk with the Japanese ambassador, I was very happy that I could handle an ambassador, and the walk is over, the tour is over. So I showed him this, and he quickly took out money from his pocket and put it in my hand. Later realizing that in Japan, this meant money. In Russia, this means penury, begging, or zero. In Brazil, it's an insult. If you have to insult someone, you would do it. A simple gesture like hands up would have a different kind of meaning everywhere. So we have to be very careful while showing. There is a Spanish group which comes, and believe me, never take them. They are the most miser of all, and they will not pay you any tips. Rather, if you are eating something and you offer them, the whole horde of them would come and start eating with you. So never ever offer anything to them. That's a golden rule, I'm telling you. So these Spaniards, they come for these bike tours to India, and I was handling them, and also we all were on the bullet, doing a bullet tour of Lucknow. And in the middle, I showed them the La Martiniere, which is a French monument from the side of the Gomti. And I raised my thumb to them that, see what a wonderful monument. And they all stopped as such, not relenting to move. I got down from my bike. I said, sorry, excuse me. I didn't ask you to stop here. I was just showing you that it's a wonderful monument and you could see this. And it was like with this hand gesture. They said, I'm sorry, but this is very offensive. Very, very offensive. That reminds me that after Minoru Kikuchi left from Lucknow, and I had this friend who needed a scholarship in Japanese. So I recommended him, and he went to Japan to study. And it was his first day in the class, and he went inside, and all of a sudden he had to go to the washroom, and he raised his small finger. Showing finger in any way, any format, any size is a big no-no. I would always say, please don't do it to any nationality in any culture. So he showed his little finger, and the class, there was a little mumbling in the class, a chuckling in the class. Then, of course, his bladder had a limited capacity. So after 10 minutes, again, this poor man, he showed his finger. And the class this time had a little more louder giggle because Japanese are very well behaved, very composed and calm. So there was not so much of a ruckus. But then things went beyond the control. And it was, he couldn't tolerate, and he put his hand up and he said, excuse me, professor. And now this time there was a loud laughter, and he rushed out without seeing. When he came back, his fellow friends told him that this gesture in Japan means, I need a girl. So that was very humiliating and very embarrassing for a student for first day in a class to show fingers and do something like that. Similarly, this means I need a boy. So these two gestures, that's why I would say that hands are the most dangerous element when it comes to body language. So in terms of intercultural communication, avoid doing it. Avoid doing it. Okay. This is what I discussed with you. So the challenge is that every day is a new challenge. Every customer is very, very different. You can't consider them simple and same. Accept the variety, enjoy it with the taste. And now again, this sign is like when someone asks you need food and I do this, it means little. If you're talking to me something and I'm not able to do it, if I do it in Italy like this means what do you mean? And if like in a Greece, you are standing and you do like this, someone does like this, it means it's perfect. But if an Arab do like this, that means you've reached his patience level. That means shuya sabr, patience. Please, would you hold on? Would you wait? So this is like a sign which says that you have to be this thing. Now, this is one of my favorite signs, which I always say in Texas. Whenever we have this, cowboys do it, they mean like big horns, okay? In the modern parlance, if I do like this, it means that I'm on a telephone, I'm on a call, I'm talking to someone. But if I do it at Brazil, this means your wife is cheating you. So far, so good. But the second question is more dangerous because the other person would ask you, how would you know, gentlemen, that my wife is cheating me? Are you the partner in crime? So be very careful while doing signs. Now, never touch the head of anybody because head is considered to be the abode of God. This is what goes when we pray in front. So it's most of the cultures, especially in Thai, I've seen that they consider it very, very this thing, sacred. Triangular shapes are not considered good in Hong Kong, Korea, and Taiwan, despite we see that the star sign in India is considered very good. In Israel, it is considered as the sign of David. In India, it is considered of balancing, of rather a representation of Shiva, where we talked about the yin and the yang, the negative and the positive, where we talk about the men and the women energy, the two triangles crossing each other, balancing. So that's positive. But in Hong Kong, Korea, and Taiwan, it is considered negative. The number 7, which is considered so lucky in the Islamic societies because 7 heavens and 7 earths and 7 so many things, 7 colors in the rainbow. But in Kenya, it brings bad luck. In Czech Republic, it is positive and has a magical connotation in Benin and Africa. Similarly, number 10 is a bad luck in Korea. Most of the places do not have number 13 in their lift because they consider 13 as unlucky. Number 4 is considered death in Japan because number 4 is called as Sheen. And Sheen is also another word for death. So they'll never give you anything which is 4 as a gift. We should also never give anything in souvenir to a Japanese. I know it was a bad joke, but I read it somewhere that one of the ministers, Shinde, he died in a car accident. So people were saying that it was his name, which represented 4 and which represented death in Japanese. Of course, nothing related to that, but I just shared it with you. Now, red, of course, in Indian culture, bride's color, happiness, joy, or getting married, that is there. Just to pass on one of the lectures that I was taking on happiness, I read somewhere that people who marry are happy. They marry when they're happy. But the side line which said that the research equally proves that people who divorce are equally happy after divorce. So coming back to our happiness, like when you see the red color in a bride, we consider it as happiness, whereas in Africa, it represents a witchcraft, so which is very different. People have a certain kind of commonality. Of course, they will differ within a certain society, like in India we do, but still there are certain commonalities. Try going by them because more than time they are true. Like a French, they would like to have some numbers and figures and these things. Americans would be linear, fact-driven, and number-oriented, impatient. You can't fit too much things in their itinerary because they want to end it across. Asians, they would try avoiding conflict, put a false smile on the face, and then later maybe try to curtail any anger of expression. And when it really goes beyond their limit, then they show their anger. So these are their Russians. When you talk to them, you will feel a whole theater is going on. So that's how it is. So when you're preparing to meet with people, always prepare, especially when you're giving a souvenir, you have to be very careful. Like I remember I gave this, I had this Israeli group coming to the Taj and I gave them this replica of a small Taj to every one of them. And next morning when the bus was about to depart, they returned these gifts to me. They said, we are very sorry, but we can't accept this, thank you. And later I realized they told me that it was a symbol of a mausoleum, which means a grave. So I would not be accepting this. And one more thing that they told me was that because it's a Islamic symbol, sign of Islamic power, we don't want to carry it to Israel with us. Thank you. So while deciding a souvenir for your guests, for your friends, when you're moving to another culture, be very careful. Because in India, I've seen certain places, if you gift a perfume to someone, it's not considered good. Handkerchief exchanging is not considered good. Whereas in the Middle East and in parts of Lucknow also, one of the best gifts that you can exchange are either flowers, which have been replaced, of course, now by plants, and books and perfumes. So I think the time doesn't permit me to go beyond this. Am I correct, Nikunj and Dr. Lama? And I can open the house for question answers. Gitika, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Gitika, I think
Thank you, sir.
I've reached my pinnacle. There is much to talk about, but I don't want to tire my audience. Maybe the remaining at some other time.
Yes, sir. That was a very nice, informative session. You unfolded your stories very nicely, and you explained cultural differences are very important for our industry. So now I request everyone to open your chat box and start the question hour. If anyone wants to ask the question, you can unmute your mic.
Thank you so much. Dr. Vinita, thank you so much.
Yes.
It was an honor and privilege for me to be here, a part of this little learning that I say, because I believe no one can teach you anything, only God and time can teach you. So it's like one of the best thing is like we can just be co-learners to each other, and that's what I was trying to be today. So anybody, any questions? If no, then we could call.
Hello, sir. Myself, Parul.
Hello.
So actually, I was not able to. Yeah. So actually, I was not able to chat in the box. So I really liked the webinar, and it was very informative and also very nice, wonderful session. I just want to say that that's why I was chat. I was writing in chat box, but it was not sending. I don't know why.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this gesture from your end. I'm very thankful. Thank you so much. So any questions, anything else? Bouquets and bricks, all welcomed.
So everyone is thanking you in the chat box, sir.
Yeah, I'm trying to respond from my end, but if I'm not able to, my personal thanks to everyone. Thank you, Sai Vishnath. Nidhi, once you give me permission to leave, I will. Malvika, thank you. Very well penned up. And Dhruv, Adnan, Harshit,
Yes, sir.
Varsha,
So
thank
also,
you.
I want to tell you that I'm calling you Rizwan, sir, out of my respect, and we all enjoyed listening to you, sir.
Thank you so much. That was so lovely, Gitika. I really enjoyed interacting with you guys.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for today's lovely session. And
Thank
sir,
you.
I had a question. Like, for example, you told us about various different groups coming and the gestures you use for a different groups. What if there is a mixed group, like for the Japanese and Spanish, all of them came all together? Then
Be
what we
very
have?
international. Be very international. I believe being the Brit way is one of the best ways because they are the most conservative ones. So if you follow, because as such, we Indians also have been a British colony. So most of the mannerism and etiquettes that we have, we generally learned it from them. So in terms of business, I mean, of course, we have our own sanskar, which we respect and are much above everything. But like following the Brit way is one of the best ways to be able to present yourself. So like not being too informal, curtailing yourself, but yet, and yes, minimum of hand gestures.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Like in Iranian, burping is considered to be very bad. It's like as good as abusing someone. So make sure you don't burp in front of an Iranian. Whereas in a Punjabi, if you don't burp after the eating, that means you never enjoyed your food.
Yes, sir. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Rizwan sir.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you? I should stand up.
No. Please sit down, please.
Thank
It was
you.
a nice session. मैं बात का आधे घंटे का ही सुन पाया. I was in a meeting earlier. I wish I could have heard you throughout the session.
Thank you, sir. That's come from you. It made my day, sir. And all of the audiences also have given very nice review. I'm so thankful. Rishabh, Sai, Rinsu, Tanya, Tushar, Ishani.
We have a
And
very good and interesting and intelligent bunch of students. Very nice students.
I could see that, sir, and they were like, I created a story kind of atmosphere for them because I know they don't need gyan. This is a very gyani generation.
Yes.
So I created more.
Very well informed.
Yeah, very well informed. We need to learn a lot about technology. Thank you so much. Initially, they helped me a lot with the technology because it was my first presentation on Google. I'm more of a Zoom man. Yeah.
Chalo, good. All well at your end?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. All your prayers, sir. Inshallah.
Chaliye, we'll be in touch, na?
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir.
Okay, all the best. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, and everyone have a great day. So I can leave now, probably. Thank you.
Yeah.